Secret Service agents assigned to protect the president's granddaughter opened fire on suspected car thieves in Washington, D.C. last night after encountering three people breaking in a window on a parked, unoccupied government vehicle. Now, this comes at a time when skyrocketing crime plagues the nation's capital, as the district has seen more than 6,000 car thefts and 350 carjackings in 2023 alone. Earlier this year, Republicans in Congress stopped a soft-on-crime initiative by the D.C. government. Well, joining me now to discuss this is the House member who spearheaded this effort, successfully pushing through a measure that made sure that the District of Columbia could not go soft on crime. Congressman Andrew Clyde, he serves on the House Appropriations Committee and represents the 9th Congressional District of Georgia. Congressman Clyde, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you, Tony. Great to be with you this evening.
So let me ask you, are you surprised by what happened last night surrounding the president's granddaughter?
No, I'm not surprised. Outside the Capitol complex itself, I think Washington, D.C. is the wild, wild west. And, it's been almost impossible for the mayor to maintain any sort of law enforcement, because you are seeing what their policies, the consequences of their policies is over 1,100 Metro Police Department officers leaving the force. So they are down that many officers. So crime is on the increase here. You mentioned it. It's a 40% increase. Carjacking, skyrocketing. It's really bad. And this is another reason why home rule has been a failure here in Washington, D.C., and why Congress has had to step in and fix some of the issues that the Washington, D.C. Council and the mayor have caused.
Now, before we get into the details of those specific pieces of legislation, I want to go to the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, today was asked about this incident, and this is what she had to say. Clip 10.
We've been very serious on dealing with the crime that we have seen just across the country, and we'd love to work with Republicans on this. They have not been serious on this.
Your response, Congressman?
I think Republicans are the only ones who have been serious on this. We have brought forth two measures. One did pass into law. The other one, President Biden vetoed. And that one, H.J. Res 42, was the actual piece of legislation that would have taken down the anti-police law that the city council passed and that the mayor signed. And that law was responsible for the mass exodus of law enforcement officers in the city. When you don't have law enforcement officers, you're not going to have law enforcement. That means crime is going to be on the rise. So the White House press secretary, I don't know where she gets her facts, but they're obviously not true.
Congressman Clyde, this goes back to what we saw after 2020 with the whole defund the police of the left after the George Floyd incident. And we're now reaping what has been sown in communities all across the nation. My concern is I look at this lawlessness, that this is really at the heart of the left's policies. I mean, they are sowing seeds of lawlessness. How do we stop what is taking place all across this country?
Well, Republicans have always been the party of law and order. And what you have seen is the massive increases in crime have been primarily at Democrat-run cities because they have been defunding the police, as you mentioned, and they have been making it harder for law enforcement officers to do their job. They've been making it so that they're not respected anymore. And when law enforcement is not respected, then you have a great increase in crime. And you're seeing that in Chicago, in New York, in Seattle especially. These Democrat-run cities, Austin, where there is a huge increase in crime. And it is because of the Democrat policies, the soft on crime policies, where they believe that the police are the bad guys and the criminals are the good guys. And that's wrong. That's completely backwards.
Now, we know, we know, but maybe we need to talk a little bit more about this. People don't realize that the District of Columbia, the Congress actually has jurisdiction ultimately over the district, and that's why you could pass legislation or resolution through Congress that would basically trump what the city had done. But even though D.C. has seen this 40% spike in violent crime, they're not alone. We're seeing this all across the country in major Democratic run cities because of the softness on crime, but again, also because they've run the police off.
You're exactly correct. And Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution says that Congress has exclusive legislative authority over the federal city of Washington, D.C. Now, our founding fathers were very wise men, and they wanted the Washington, D.C. to be a city for all America, and therefore they gave the legislators the responsibility for governing the city. Well, in 1973, we gave that up for the most part and passed home rule, which was a huge mistake. And we have seen over the last 45, almost 50 years, where Washington, D.C. has been irresponsible in its running of the city. And so we see the massive crime increase, and that's been a serious problem. I don't want that. I don't think any member of Congress wants that for their constituents coming here to Washington, D.C. So we need to take home rule back. We can do that here through legislation, and I look forward to working with my colleagues to that eventual end.
Congressman Andrew Clyde, it looks like even Governor Newsom out in California can get serious about crime if motivated enough. In advance of the Chinese dictator coming to San Francisco, he's actually cleaning things up, and he was asked about this. Play clip number 9.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true. Because it's true.
What do you say? It's true.
Well, they finally admitted the truth. You know, it's not for the people, not for American citizens living there that they're doing this. They're doing this for, leaders coming in, for foreigners coming into the city. That's inexcusable. That's not good governance. That's really, really pathetic.
I want to, with a couple of minutes we've got left, I want to go to something else in the District of Columbia. Considering the time, the resources that are being spent to continue to pursue January 6th defendants, while criminals run wild in our cities. I mean, just last weekend, not this, the weekend before last, we had this mob storm the White House, pushing on the gates, putting paint all over. Not a single arrest surrounding the White House. What's going on? I mean, this looks like a two-tiered system of justice.
Those were the exact words I was going to use, Tony. It is a two-tiered system of justice, and it's a really sad fact that we're seeing this. And the amount of money that was expended on the January 6th rioters, tremendous efforts by the federal government to prosecute these individuals. And yet what you saw in the 2020 riots, the defund the police riots, and what you see in the Palestinian riots or the in front of the White House, where they vandalized the White House with red paint and various slogans, the gates of the White House, and no arrests, no prosecution. It is a tremendous two-tiered system of justice. That's why we have to deal with the FBI, the Department of Justice, when it comes to the appropriations, and everyone needs to hear that. We have to deal with a weaponized government here. The way we do that is we defund it. So the people listening need to contact their representatives and tell them that we have to deal with a weaponized FBI, and the way we do that is we take away their funding.
And that obviously is something that's going to be ongoing as Congress is looking at these appropriations bills, and we're going to have to talk about that another day. But is there the will to get that done?
Well, I certainly have the will to get that done, and there's certainly a lot of other members that do. But there are a few here in the Republican Party that I think don't lack that will, but need to buck up a little bit, because these are government agencies weaponized against the American people. That should never be allowed to stand under any circumstances.
Well, we want to get you back on to help fan those flames, because we agree with you. It needs to be taken care of. Congressman Andrew Clyde, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tony. Great to be with you.